I follow my path, you laugh at your foolishness. Hanging on the waist with a sharp character, carrying on both shoulders with love and righteousness. Where can I find my chivalrous and tender bones? I am searching for a treasure sword from my heart's hometown. The sword cuts through the world's mockery, leaving everything for future generations to say. Keywords of the novel. My character as forced villain is first without a pop-up window. My character as forced villain is first. Download the complete TXT collection, and my character as forced villain is first. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Fist 10 Mile City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Fist 10 Mile City. 10 miles of Pingu is covered in frost, and the 5 tombs are young and eager to take the lead. The young man with black hair was proud and ambitious. He once wanted to climb the 9 heavens to see the moon, and even dared to compete with the heavens. At a young age, he became famous throughout the city for his martial arts skills, and everyone called him Chilan, seeing him as the pride of the 10-mile city. At this moment, the young man is kneeling on one knee, struggling to support his body with both hands. 30 years in the east and 30 years in the west, do not deceive young people into poverty. Yi Yanjing's cold words made Li Xing's body tremble lightly. Comparison of comprehensive combat power between enemy and enemy. 25.75 The sound of system prompts flashed through my mind. The position of the black-haired boy was so tempting that Li Xing couldn't help but fly up and kick the unwilling black-haired boy in front of him, rolling on the ground a few times, feeling embarrassed. The sky slowly began to drizzle, as if crying softly, while a tragedy on the high platform was gradually coming to an end in front of everyone. Watching the young man with black hair and strong attire vomit blood crazily in front of him, Li Xing's face flashed with a hint of apology, but his mouth still held a strong position and did not spare anyone. Little brother, the flaws in your cultivation are too great. What kind of fighting power is just a crop trick boasted by ignorant fanatics in remote mountain cities? Even if you practice 10 or 100 sections. Practicing for another 100 years is just a pawn who can't cross the river. Why don't you honestly give up your marriage? Take some compensation from wealthy families and go to the big city to become a master, truly learn 2 skills. I see that you are also a malleable talent with decent talent. Why don't you take me as your teacher? It could be a way out. You're bullying too much. I'll fight you. Faced with the sarcasm in his ear, the young man struggled to get up, breathing heavily. Although his face was mixed with blood from the rain and his torn clothes looked so disheveled, Li Xing unexpectedly noticed that the guy in front of him had calmed down his breath. Don't do this, is this guy really a genius? The enemy's anger is concentrated, and the combat power has significantly increased. The comparison of enemy and our combat power is 55.45. The system's prompts are always so thoughtful and timely. I saw the young man waving his fists randomly and attacking Li Xing. Although he has been severely injured, his agility and movement has significantly improved, as his empty fist hits the rain curtain and emits bursts of whining. After completely abandoning their own protection, those crop tactics actually had a certain connotation of simplifying into complexity, and the reckless attack surprised Li Xing to himself. The moves became faster and faster, and the speed and strength gradually increased, allowing the black-haired boy's Wang Ba fist technique to rub against Li Xing's body several times. Whether proficient in martial arts or not, even the enthusiastic onlookers can see that the black-haired boy has regained the initiative. This is a bit outrageous, isn't it? In the current state of this thing, if you accidentally take a move, you really have to kneel down on the spot. Fortunately, I had a backup move. Li Xing took a big step back and widened the distance to show the enemy's weakness. But without stopping, he gave a condescending evaluation and said, "You're tired and weak, your footsteps are floating. Young man, you're seriously lacking in chi and blood. Yes, come here." Pointing at his handsome face, Li Xing's face was full of teasing. "If you try harder, you'll hit me." The black-haired boy turned a blind eye to Li Xing's mockery, as if his anger level had reached its full limit and he was not affected by anything around him. Taking a step, stepping over the gradually waterlogged arena, accompanied by wind and thunder, the whole person emitted an aura that made Li Xing tremble slightly. Damn it! Li Xing was greatly surprised, but at the moment he was in good physical condition and had a better understanding of the scene before him than expected. Immediately stepping on the 7-star step, his body resembled that of a koi swimming, and he saw obvious flaws in the young man's moves. He slightly awkwardly sidestepped away from the handsome young man's moves. It's not that Li Xing doesn't want to counterattack, but rather that his own moves are not yet proficient enough, and the counterattack that should have been connected was missed due to his slow effort. Ding, 5 minutes have passed and the task is completed. That's all for it, reflect on it. Upon hearing the prompt, Li Xing felt relieved and immediately strode forward. Taking advantage of the recovery period of the black-haired boy's big move, he raised a fist as big as a clay pot and fiercely attacked the boy's handsome face. The black-haired boy's moves were old and he was powerless to resist. His equally handsome face deformed in front of a huge force, as if his teeth were spewing out a mouthful of blood. He flew backwards for a few meters and fell heavily to the ground, unable to stand up again. Slowly retracting his hands, Li Xing calmly regained his breath while posing. He then raised his hand and gestured to the onlookers on the surrounding high platforms, clasping his fists and bowing. Gradually heavy rain could not extinguish the enthusiasm of the surrounding onlookers, who cheered and sent blessings to the victors. Of course, there are also some idle words that generously splash towards the black-haired boy lying on the ground. These words can moisten people's hearts more than rain. Li Xing confidently scanned the surroundings, but in reality, his gaze met with that of a young man in the imperial robe who was watching. The smile on the young man's face was very bright, and even if he got wet in his attire, it did not affect his mood at the moment. Task completed, settlement begins. Teach Yi Yan a lesson, brutally undermine his self-confidence, verbally attack for 5 minutes, put him into a state of explosive beans, and defeat him again. Yi Yan's psychological trauma rate is 60%, and the likelihood of subsequent adverse reactions is predicted to be 60%. The comprehensive evaluation of task completion rate is above grade C. If you have not received the opportunity to actively select rewards or multiple selection opportunities, the system will automatically select rewards with a quantity of 1 ding. Congratulations on obtaining the marriage line. The called thousands of miles of marriage, 1 line of connection. If used against the female protagonist Lan Yingying in this incident, the success rate is 100%, and it can fully inherit the marriage relationship between Yi Yan and Lan Yingying. If you choose to use it for other female characters, the success rate needs to be determined, and the success rate fluctuates between 0% and 0.5% depending on the level of female favorability towards you. Do you want to use it? No. Women will only affect the speed of their debt repayment. Li Xing shook his head decisively and chose to refuse. Do you accept the item? No. The host refuses to receive item rewards, and the item rewards decompose on their own. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Dao points +2, with 8 existing Dao points. It's only 2 o'clock, Li Xing pouted in disgust. Is that all? The most promising descendant of the Yi family in contemporary times, and one of the top 10 outstanding young people in the 10-mile city. Is that all? Do you want to go back to the battle? No. Are you analyzing the techniques? No. In his mind, he flipped through the loser's techniques and moves included in the redemption list, and the long gray-white list completely piqued his interest. Skill. Power of fighting, beginner's body forging technique, green, requires 5 points of cultivation, can be elevated to the Mingxian realm, move. 8 collapse fist, white, requires 1 point of skill. Li Xing shook his head, not worth mentioning at all. The visible flaws lack even the value of backtracking and analysis. Let's gather the points and charge a few more waves. Li Xing looked at his own panel. Cultivation method. Mingjing skill, blue, the body forging part of the Mingjing sex cultivation method, with a cultivation progress of 63% and an increase of 0.8. Move. Dragon step, green, proficiency 78%, increased by 0.8. 5 elements fist, green, proficiency 90%, increased by 0.8. Alas, after more than a month of hard work, I only improved my progress by 3%. From one point at the beginning, my Dao points increased by 5%, but now it takes 10 points to increase by 5%. When should I save up my progress honestly? In terms of moves, it seems that they are sufficient for now. It is still the right path to continue accumulating and improving skills. Li Xing recalled the teachings of his master in his mind. Xinger, your talent is definitely unparalleled among all the people I have seen. I have taken you as a named disciple and you must diligently cultivate the fundamental skills of our sect. As for the moves, our sect is not lacking in the least. Come on, these few books are easy to get started with. Just pick a few that pass the eye and practice. The few sketchy drawings that my master casually threw away in my memory were just improvised. It can be seen that there are indeed many moves inside the door, such as the powerful diamond fist, and Fengxing leg. Well, Li Xing agrees with the fact that his talent is unparalleled. With just 2 months of guidance from his master, he was able to see the clues by practicing the obscure and difficult to understand Mingjing skill at the beginner's level, even though he had not yet obtained a cheat. Not to mention, after entering Mingjing skill, I received a task to drive out a stray dog group and successfully hacked it. That progress is even more rapid, it's a natural talent. Humph, what are the top 10 outstanding young people in the 10-mile city? They are just bait for this genius. Watch me punch Nanshan Nursing Home and kick Beihai Kindergarten. Humming a tune, Li Xing walked down the arena and headed towards the deep mist and rain in the city, waving his sleeve without taking away any compliments or the hearts of the young ladies. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. I am the villain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. I am the villain. In the luxurious private room of Wangyue Tower, the best hotel in the 10-mile city, the son of the city guard commander, Ran, arranged a rich banquet here. The commander of the city guard is known as one of the 3 pillars of the city, ranking second only to the city lord and the middle minister. He has 3,000 armored guards under his command and covers the sky with only one hand within the city. 10 dishes and 2 soups have all been served on the table, with exquisite and ingenious arrangements. The table is filled with rare items, such as bear paws, bird's nest, and deer antler, emitting a faint heat. The wine is also known as the famous spring breeze drunk liquor, which is 1 or 2 drinks and 1 or 2 silver. This table is worth several tens of taels of silver, which is enough to cover the cost of an ordinary family in the city for a year. The beams, carved railings, and jade masonry of golden Nanmu make the room appear magnificent, and various precious jade screens and corals complement the atmosphere of the room under the soft silk curtain. Such an environment, such a banquet, and the guests waiting for such a big shot still arrive late. Gongzi Ran calmly played with the fan in his hand, his face calm without any impatience. On the contrary, the servant standing by was quite indignant. This rascal is not like a large disciple, so crude and rude. Ran Gongzi's servant approached Ran Gongzi with a hint of disdain and said carefully, "Why should you treat him so politely, young master? 10 streams and 100 sects are the top of the Xia ethnic group, and it's not surprising to receive some courtesy," explained young Master Ran. "Father often says, a noble person has calmness, and this mere weight has made you so anxious." What the young master taught. The servant's face tightened as he recognized his master's displeasure. He quickly bowed and respectfully exclaimed. With a blink of an eye, the topic immediately changed. "It's just that the Mingjing sect, although one of the upper sects, is unfamiliar to the younger ones." Glancing at the servant askance, he didn't take his caution seriously, or maybe he wanted to chat, said young Master Ran with a hint of nostalgia. It's normal for you to not know this sect. The headquarters of Mingjing sect is located in Huanan City, thousands of miles away from this city. But the autumn mountains, autumn waters, and autumn rain return, the yellow sky, thick soil, and phoenix flying around the city of Huanan. The young master nodded slowly in approval. There are a total of 12 schools, 3 schools, and 9 schools in Huanan City. The Mingjing school is just one of the last schools, with only a few hundred disciples in the school. It is said that the main cultivation of the contemporary school is not Mingxian, and there has been no achievement in the past century, so it is not well known. Can these sects also be called upper sects? How can one not be called a Shangpai, because the predecessors Yuan and his martial arts are divine? The Xia ethnic group has a history of thousands of years, countless geniuses and heroes, countless explorations, and ultimately achieved 110 ways to break through the limits of these 10 streams and 100 schools. Which school is not worthy of admiration? Furthermore, during the heyday of this sect, there were also hundreds of Mingxian masters who witnessed the growth of several elders and fought on the battlefield with their horses and horses wrapped in corpses, making remarkable contributions to our Xia tribe. And this cultivation method has its own unique features during the period of Mingxian and seeing sentient beings, which can be called the first class level of the upper sect. The young master had a hopeful eye and said, "It is said that the ancestors of our family once had a master from the Mingjing sect who entered the realm of seeing sentient beings, overwhelming an era and laying a huge foundation for our family." With a long sigh and a shaking of his head, he said regretfully, "Unfortunately, according to the ancestral testament, the Mingjing sect's martial arts emphasize the most on comprehension. Those without a clear mind find it difficult to see the Mingxian, and the forging technique is mediocre among the upper sections. Although it is easy to enter, even ordinary villagers can see the results in a few months, it often has little prospect. Most people stop at the peak of forging and cannot make any progress. And those who have a clear mind are rare, so in recent years, this sect has gradually declined." The servant didn't know if he understood, but nodded in silence. The young master's conversation gradually faded away, and he ordered, "Since I have entered the Mingjing sect, why not form a good relationship?" Young master, with deep foresight, "Little one. All right, stop flattering and get out of the door to welcome you. Be more polite. Li Gongzi. It's not a shame that he's a master of the upper sect. With his every move, he has his own style and achieved great success. He lives up to his heavy trust." Young Master Ran had a bright smile and a humble demeanor, with a demeanor of being on par with others, making it impossible for anyone to pick a single flaw. Praise. Thank you, young Master Hua, for looking up to me. Every drop of kindness will be repaid by a gushing spring. It's easy to make that kid look for teeth on the ground. Li Gongzi is humble. Yi Yan is also a famous genius boy in the city, and among his peers, it's really rare to encounter opponents. This place is just a border city. If you don't join the upper sect, you won't be able to learn the true method. Teach him a lesson, and it can be considered that you have accumulated virtue, young Master Ran. I see that this person has a rebellious mind and is not a layman. It is inevitable that his martial arts will improve in the future, and he will look down on others, causing great trouble for his family." Young Master Ran smiled and nodded without questioning Li Xing's evaluation. After a moment, his face turned pale. "Alas, young Master Li doesn't know anything about it. Actually, I don't want to do it myself. That Yi Yan and Miss Lan were childhood sweethearts and had made an early engagement. Both of them had been my good friends before, and our elders had many social connections. We should have given our blessings first. But the blue girl was favored by the young master of the big city and will soon be awarded a high branch. However, her family, concerned about the local power of the Yi family, Yi Yan, has a strong character. If she comes directly to repent, there may be accidents. Please ask this young master to come up with this plan." This is why I have to invite Mr. Li to be a villain in vain and bear this infamous reputation. It's easy to say, easy to say. Li Xing suddenly realized that the small doubts in his heart had been answered, and he suddenly felt that the food in front of him was fragrant. Then I won't be polite. During his speech, he just picked up his own dishes and indulged in such delicious food. He couldn't afford to eat it normally, so he couldn't waste it. While eating, Li Xing's eyes flickered as he scanned around without looking for any trace. Look at my memory. Seeing Li Xing's appearance, young Master Ran couldn't possibly not know what he was thinking and immediately stood up to command his servants. This is 1,000 taels of silver. Please accept it with a smile. A moment later, a silver ticket was handed over to Li Xing. It's easy to say. It's easy to say. Li Xing immediately became even more enthusiastic, with a hint of sincerity in his language and expression. With a thunderous aura, he grabbed the silver note into his arms and took young Master Ran's hand, as if he was about to bow to him. He asked sincerely. Young Master, who else do you want to teach a lesson to? Just give me a command, and I promise to do it beautifully for you. If you want him to lose a few teeth, he will lose a few, and he will never cut corners. Upon hearing this, young Master Ran was taken aback and seemed shocked by Li Xing's honesty. He had no choice but to draw his hand and awkwardly smile, definitely, definitely. Full of wine and food, bid farewell to the benefactor. After the rain, the sky cleared up, and even the air became incredibly fresh. Li Xing walked on the main road with great ambition, holding his right hand on his chest, which was where the silver banknotes were stored. Get rich. Get rich. This ticket is worth it. I caught more than 10 little thieves. Sure enough, we still need to learn good martial arts, just like the emperor's family. The ancients never deceived me. The big arena in the city crushed the highly anticipated martial arts star in the local area. Now my reputation has also been established, so I no longer need to do some work such as finding cats, catching dogs, and driving chickens and pigs. Wong wong wong. At this moment, the black dog passing by the street couldn't stand the guy strutting around in the middle of the road, showing its shiny fangs at Li Xing. Wong. With a fierce gaze, the black dog instantly grabbed its tail and whimpered, hiding under the small stall. Humph, Li Xing nodded in satisfaction and continued to walk towards the dock by the city's edge, taking bold steps. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Awakening of the Negative Second Generation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Awakening of the Negative Second Generation. The 10-mile city is truly located within a radius of 10 miles, surrounded by beautiful mountains and rivers. It has been under the jurisdiction of hundreds of thousands of people for over 200 years, with thousands of elite soldiers wearing armor. The location is slightly off-center, with a certain distance from the mainstream area of Xia ethnic activities, but it has not reached the sparsely populated wilderness area and is rarely disturbed by evil neighbors. Relying on the adjacent Lushui River spanning several cities and the 10-mile flat lake on the city bank, as well as the local specialty minerals and wood in the mountains, the small life in the city is also enjoyable. In the 80 cities of the Xia ethnic group, both power and potential are at the bottom. For such a peaceful small city, the dock on the banks of the Lushui River is naturally the only core area in the city, apart from the Lord's mansion. There are at least tens of thousands of scattered people relying on this dock to support their families. No matter day or night, there is a constant flow of people coming and going here, including porters, boatmen, fishermen, business assistants, street vendors, beggars, and daytime adventurers. All kinds of education and entertainment converge. It's really rare. How come Li Dashao has time to come here and destroy the land today? As soon as Li Xing's arrogance entered the dock, he was caught by the sharp-eyed mixed stars squatting under the tree with their hands in their hands, observing the flow of people back and forth. For this master, the mixed stars who had already suffered great losses immediately rushed up like a tide under the hint of the whistle. I don't want to seek a fight, but on the one hand, I want to show respect, and on the other hand, I can control this master by relying on the power of the crowd when he makes mistakes. At least if we really want to kill so many people, even Li Xing, this generous demon king, would hesitate for a moment when he takes action. It's none of your business, let's rest on the side. For the thoughts of these thugs, Li Xingman waved his hand casually, but his eyes narrowed and his nerves tensed slightly. Although he appeared unscathed, he was always alert to the possibility of daylight intrusion coming from around. If a boat capsizes in one's own sewer, there will inevitably be a big commotion. But now my identity is different, I have already ascended to the Hall of Elegance. Looking back and bullying these vulgar guys, even he feels inferior. Okay. You're busy first. Come and have tea when you're free. The mixed stars also do not entangle, they are also to prevent Li Xing from deliberately causing trouble and delaying their work. Since they have already expressed their attitude, who is willing to touch things that are not beneficial? Under the leadership of de Schwa, everyone dispersed like birds and beasts, but the vigilant gaze still lingered on Li Xing. It was no surprise that Li Xing avoided the busy porter, squeezed out the wandering mixed stars, and walked through the slightly crowded crowd towards an inconspicuous whooping small boat swaying in the blue waves by the dock. Old Wu. A clear voice. Before the person arrives, the voice arrives first. The people who were busy at the bow of the boat, wearing green straw hats and green raincoat, and holding long poles, quickly turned around when they heard the sound. Seeing the person coming, the two of them looked at each other, and the boatman's wrinkled and tanned face squeezed out a bright smile. Young master. While responding, he hurriedly propped up his long pole and quickly moved the small boat near the shore to the shore, lifting the dark curtain to welcome Li Xing onto the boat. Why are you available today? Li Xing boarded the boat, looked around a few times, and sat down on a small boat full of fish and dirt, completely relaxing his tense body at this moment. I just took on a big job. Here. Young master, this. Old Wu looked at the thousands of taels of silver in front of him, so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. He hadn't seen such a large amount of silver in some days. Help me send it back and give my mother a message. My son has made a name for himself. He has found a way. Those small coins can be paid back in minutes. Let her not worry, just rest assured and recuperate. Young master. Upon hearing this, tears welled up in the corners of old Wu's eyes, and his hands, holding the silver note, trembled slightly. The heavens have eyes. Carefully opening the hidden compartment, he took out an oilcloth and wrapped the silver ticket carefully, then made it waterproof and hid it. I wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes with my rough fingers. After a while of hard work, the good days are still ahead. Li Xing felt the tears of the old man and reached out to gently pat Wu's shoulder, his young arm full of strength. Leaving the whooping boat, standing on the dock, waving his hand and watching old Wu take the boat away. Sigh. The smile gradually disappeared from Li Xing's face. He had been in the city for 3 years, and even with today's share, he only managed to get back 5,000 taels of debt that required at least 1 million taels of silver to pay off. The progress was too slow. I am truly ashamed of being a traveler. It has been 18 years since I traveled here, yet I am still such a waste. Do you want to find a warehouse or a company to work as a laborer? Save some money to get a hotel, a car and horse shop or something. Careful management for a few years, with some advertising experience from previous lives, wouldn't it just take off casually? The question is, what about the first bucket of gold? What do you rely on to save money? Working. Working is impossible, it's impossible to work in this lifetime. 1,000 thoughts flashed through my mind, eventually turning into a long sigh. I looked at my wallet with only a few pieces of broken silver left, paid for the room fee, and almost didn't even have time for the next meal. A cold wind swept through the autumn leaves, and the slightly damp hem pressed against his body, bringing a chill that made Li Xing shiver uncontrollably. No matter what society it is, without some family background and start-up funds, it's really not easy to start a wealthy generation from scratch. Not to mention myself as a negative second generation. Li Xing's eyes turned cold as he looked around the dock, seemingly searching for an unlucky person to vent his anger on. And those mixed stars who watched from afar seemed to feel Li Xing's murderous aura for the first time, curling up one by one, or pretending to call out friends and leave the place. Even the passing wild cat arched its back, tilted its ears sharply, and its fur exploded like it exploded. It dared not even meow, and in the next second, it quickly flashed into the corner of the house. Alas, if you go to work, it won't work. It's a waste of time and cultivation. I only have half a year left to promise my master, and I still need to practice my skills to the top. With this progress, it's obviously too late. Besides, if the master doesn't pick me up on the way, we'll have to leave time to rush to the sect thousands of miles away. We have to leave a month or so of time. Thinking about this, Li Xing instantly felt like he had lost his appetite. Coincidentally, he could save on his next meal. Let's go to the bounty again. I hope there are some Jianghu thieves, wandering bandits, flower-picking thieves, and so on recently, so that I can earn some money while also accumulating some potential points. When can I meet all sentient beings, unite with heaven and earth, dominate the times, and reach the pinnacle of life? Should I just find a lady from a wealthy family to hold me? With my beautiful appearance in my prime, coupled with this resolute and unyielding voice, it's still possible. Instantly overwhelmed by the pressure of reality, Li Xing stopped daydreaming and became disheartened, moving step by step towards the bounty in the west of the city. Lowering your head, dragging your feet, you won't fall, and by the way, you can also see if you can find any silver coins on the ground. There's no way, the children of the poor are already in charge. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Tasks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Tasks. The Bounty Office is a semi-public unofficial organization that, like the Wudao League, Langya Pavilion, and Tangong, serves as the best adhesive between cities. The Bounty Office is responsible for receiving and distributing tasks, intelligence circulation, from slaying troops and seizing flags to catching chickens and dogs. There are no tasks that they do not accept. As long as the employer can afford the money. But the nature of these things involves some unspeakable things, so the bounty has always been a place to hide dirt and grime. People who don't have many brushes dare not wander here, even if it's just a bounty center in a small town on the edge. Bang! The broken gate of the bounty was kicked open with a fierce kick, and the door panel collided with the wall, making a huge noise. The interior of the bounty center looks no different from a typical tavern, except that the walls are covered with various bounties, and there are many ronin sitting in the hall, drinking tea, boasting, and being hired by others. Countless ferocious gazes fiercely swept towards the door. Li Xing didn't hesitate and scanned back one by one. The whole room was filled with fierce and evil spirits, and no one dared to look at him. He has been wandering in this small town for so many years, and the bullying of the people is not in vain. A group of local chickens, tiles, and dogs. Li Xing walked straight to the counter of the bounty counter on one side of the room with a disdainful expression on his face. Shopkeeper, what are some good jobs lately? The shopkeeper lowered his head to work, looked up impatiently upon hearing the question, and as soon as he saw Li Xing's face, it changed into a flattering expression. Mr. Li. You're here. Stop talking nonsense and take out the best task. Okay, the shopkeeper took out a registration book filled with tasks and approached Li Xing to an empty table. He even voluntarily bent down and wiped the tables and chairs with his sleeves. Someone, bring tea to Mr. Li. Li Xing displeased and patted his arm, giving a hint to the shopkeeper with his eyes. This. The shopkeeper yielded to Li Xing's gaze and silently swallowed his saliva. He understood. Excellent tea. That's right. Li Xing appreciated the shopkeeper's wit and leisurely opened the thick registration book in front of him. Here comes the good tea. Not long after, the waiter brought a steaming teapot and casually placed 2 washed vegetarian tea bowls. The shopkeeper waved back the waiter and warmly took over his work, pouring tea and water for Li Xing. There's no way, the service industry. Facing a bull and horse who can efficiently solve 60% of their tasks, demonstrating this service awareness is just a basic operation. Bang! Li Xing slapped the tabletop hard, spilling a full 7-minute cup of tea on the table, pointing at the shopkeeper's nose and exclaiming in surprise. "Shopkeeper, are you playing with me? Li Gongzi, where did this come from?" Li Xing stood up and grabbed the shopkeeper's collar with lightning speed, pulling his body closer to him with an exaggerated expression on his face. "Why are you a bounty shop full of such garbage tasks flipping around? Who are you deceiving?" Beads of sweat as big as beans dripped down from the shopkeeper's forehead, and the teapot he was holding in his hand was too afraid to let go, so he had to shake his head desperately. "Li Gongzi is unjustly accused." Lengthened the ending. Looking at Li Xing's fierce face and widened eyes, the shopkeeper quickly said. Some. With a face full of hesitation, he approached Li Xing's ear and whispered softly. "What's the origin of this guy?" The onlookers sitting on the side clearly saw this scene, and immediately, wealthy guests from other places asked their local companions about it. Obviously, Li Xing's arrogant behavior and attitude have made these wandering guests quite dissatisfied. Local blind stream, bullying the weak and afraid of the hard, disciple of the upper sect. The response from his companion made the foreign wealthy guest's face uncertain, and as he traveled far and wide, he naturally understood the difficulty of this guy. The recent Shangzong should be in Baiyun City, thousands of miles away. He is a disciple of Luyun sect. Despite muttering so much, he also suppressed the idea of being chivalrous and righteous. After all, the people who have fallen into this bounty are almost all those who do not stand up to the table. In their eyes, the identity of this disciple of the upper sect means too much. Is it like this? After listening to the shopkeeper's whispers, Li Xing's anger slightly diminished and he relaxed his grip. However, as if he remembered something, he tightened the shopkeeper's collar again. "So, you old kid was squeezing me before, right? Daren't. The shopkeeper quickly waved his hand, with a surprised expression on his face, but his tone didn't sound so confident. "How about this?" The shopkeeper thought for a moment, and with the help of his body's cover, the white and tender fingers extended from the cuffs made a gesture that Li Xing liked. "Tell me earlier. I knew you, the shopkeeper, were a great and kind person." Li Xing's expression instantly bloomed, revealing a brilliant smile. Not only did he let go of the shopkeeper, helped him tidy up his slightly messy clothes, comforted him to sit well, but he also snatched the teapot and served the shopkeeper a bowl of good tea. After chatting a few more times while sitting, Li Xing stood up and kindly patted the shopkeeper's shoulder. "See you later." The shopkeeper also stood up and bowed, as if the meeting had ended peacefully. Watching Li Xing kick away the chair blocking the way and arrogantly walk out of the bounty center, the waiter leaned in front of the shopkeeper. "Shopkeeper, aren't you just an outer disciple of the upper sect? Is it still unknown whether you can officially enter the sect? It's worth your effort. You understand shit." The shopkeeper glanced askance at the waiter and sneered at the short-sighted guy's remarks. Without explaining the reason, he picked up his task book and walked back to the counter humming a tune. "The merit of slaying the pass and seizing the fortress is great. Master, please don't check in the merit book." Li Xing walked out the door and leisurely took out the thin paper in his hand, carefully examining the tasks on it. The Blue family. So destined. Li Xing couldn't help but think of the childhood sweetheart who had been forcibly cut off by him. After finishing this ticket and adding the shopkeeper's rebate, the travel fee is enough. Perhaps we can also give some more to our family. Delightfully calculating, Li Xing put away the note and walked towards the direction of the Lord's mansion. Good things are not afraid of the night, and even the starry sky above cannot stop the footsteps of workers. Li Xing carefully searched for the location of the client on the task book on the main street next to the Lord's mansion before the night fell completely. A high-end inn, the kind that Li Xing had never been to before, but he was not afraid of stage. Ignoring the scrutinizing gaze of the bystanders, he stepped into the bustling lights and wine. Room 3, Tianzi. Li Xing avoided the waiter and those birds and swallows who were entangled in soliciting customers, firmly believing in making money, and arrived at the location of the task book, gently knocking on the door. Li Gongzi, we meet again. The door opened and Li Xing looked at the middle-aged man with a sleek face and silk brocade clothes in front of him, feeling somewhat familiar for no reason. The middle-aged man's expression did not appear surprised, as if he had already anticipated Li Xing's arrival. It's you. Li Xing remembered that this was the middle-aged man standing with young Master Ran under the daytime arena. Linking the logic of the whole thing back and forth, Li Xing felt that he understood and had a sudden realization on his face. He rolled up his sleeves and wanted to turn his head. Don't you think Yi Yan has a long memory? Why don't I help you again and make him clear-headed? Don't worry, I'll give you a 50% discount on this fee. Young Master Li. The middle-aged man quickly grabbed him with a sincere smile on his face. Why don't we go inside and have a chat? Li Xing was just pretending and followed the other person into the room. Oh, how could such a thing happen? Li Xing patted the table, his face full of shock as if he were not pretending. Even if it's wrapped around me. No matter what, golden swallow or silver swallow, he is. I promise to uncover him for you. Even if I risk my life, I will let Miss Lan accompany you to the upper city in vain. Not so much, not so much. It seems that he was infected by Li Xing's energetic declaration, and the middle-aged man's smile was somewhat awkward. Of course, more confidence may come from the silver bill that was handed over. According to the crime style of Golden Swallow and the content of the notice, he should take action before we end this matter. In that case, there should be at least 10 days left. I'll leave this matter to you. Just a pervert. Just wait. Li Xing tightly held 100 taels of silver note, his confident eyes shining so brightly that the guests across from him couldn't open their eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. He and His Jianghu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. He and His Jianghu. The market in Shirley City opens on the 10th, and the citizens here call it Jiezi. Driving around the street is also an essential habit for residents in Shirley City and its surrounding areas. On this day, villagers from dozens of miles around will flock to the designated location in the city with their own small items. Sell some vegetables, fruits, mountain delicacies, game, firewood, and homemade groceries, and work hard to earn 3 taels of copper coins. Then turn around and walk into the shops of the city people, and purchase some oil, salt, needles, thread, and tea that the family needs. Every day, there is always a strong flow of people on the 10-mile city square, and visitors from all over come and go in an endless stream. Some small vendors also set up their own stalls, offering various foods and groceries on the table. The aroma was enticing, and the children next door were all drooling with envy. Of course, for some people, such a grand scene is also a good time to not open for 10 days and eat for 10 days. Countless unseen activities will silently sprout at this moment. Just like 10 meters in front of Li Xing, the scholar in a brocade robe and holding a folding fan, whose belongings had inadvertently fallen into someone else's pocket. The one who made the move was a short young man, dressed in ordinary coarse linen clothes, like mischievous children from ordinary families seen everywhere on the roadside, playing around in the market. Little did they know that this young man was the most skilled thief in this area, claiming to be a skilled hand in extracting a copper coin from the bottom of a boiling oil pot. Before the young man could feel the joy of success, he noticed a powerful arm bending around his neck, and the other hand wanting to catch his catch. Black eating black. What a coward. The boy instinctively wanted to resist, exerting force from both sides, trying to get rid of it. This kind of thing is not the first time, nor will it be the last time. He has a plan. As long as one can break free from a bit of space, they can slip out of enemy control and then enter the crowd. With their own body shape and familiarity with the terrain, they can immediately throw these malicious people clean. Besides, my two companions are still watching from the side. As soon as they see me being kidnapped, they should immediately rush out to rescue me. To be sarcastic and humorous, in extreme cases, it's not a problem to play more or less. But his two options were completely declared bankrupt within a second. Firstly, it is to hold on to one's own arm, as strong as iron, and no matter how hard one struggles, there is no intention of letting go at all. Moreover, locking oneself in the position of the shoulder and neck is very clever. Even if one shrinks their neck and wants to lower their mouth, they cannot find any angle. Secondly, the two companions I scanned from the corner of my eye both had a timid expression, completely different from what was previously agreed upon, trying to come up and help me out. What tricky idea. When I was thinking this way, the catch I had just obtained had already changed ownership, and then the guy holding me forced me to turn around and walk towards the big fat fish I had just caught. A tremendous force that was completely irresistible, and at the moment of turning, both of my feet had already lifted off the ground. Oh, be careful. The two of them passed by the weak scholar, who couldn't help but let out a cry that didn't meet the requirements of the sages. This thief knows that his catch has returned to its rightful place. He's a meddler. This kind of guy with a sense of justice is not uncommon. Every 10 or 8 times, there will always be one, and each time the situation is so similar the young man sighed and couldn't help but suffer a painful meal. The next second, a familiar voice sounded in his ear. Why are you still playing this old trick? This familiar voice completely suppressed the thief's difficulties back in his heart. Master Xing, be gentle, your small neck is about to be twisted and broken by you. Although he hasn't read much books, he still understands the principle of being a wise man in current affairs. Immediately plead for mercy, and immediately admit that persuasion is the best way to deal with this master. Sure enough, upon hearing his plea for mercy, the force emanating from his neck immediately decreased significantly. Xiao Lu, why are you still doing such unremarkable business? Master Xing, look at what you're saying. If we don't do this, what else can we homeless orphans do? Li Xing fell silent. He had already seen an opportunity for improvement, but these guys who used to be on the same level as him were obviously not ready yet. Being poor means being alone. Li Xing patted him on the shoulder from the bottom of his heart, took Xiao Lu to a wonton stall, and shouted to the stall owner, for bowls of wonton, big bowl. Okay, guest, wait a moment, we're here. Not long after, 4 bowls of wonton were steaming on the table, and Lao Lu and his 2 little friends who were hiding in the dark also sat down at the table. Without saying anything, several people ate wonton in front of them. For several people, the wonton with bits of meat crumbs is a rare good feast, and there is no residue with soup left after gorging on it. Do me a favor. It's rare for Master Xing to come out and find me. I'll take care of this favor. Without asking what they were going to do, the 3 of them immediately spoke out in agreement, afraid of slowing down and being suspected of having ulterior motives by the villain in front of them. I won't talk too much nonsense to you, help me find someone. Who are you looking for? Do the golden swallow know? After a moment of silence, Xiao Lu's companion timidly asked back. It seems like a famous pervert. It is said that many women from good families have been harmed. They have excellent lightness skills, are skilled in disguise techniques, and even possess excellent hidden weapons. How did you know? Xiao Lu had a childish outburst and clearly felt dissatisfied with his younger brother stealing his limelight. The storyteller at the corner tea house mentioned it before. The younger brother stubbornly retorted. Let's get to the point. Li Xing didn't have time to listen to these brats pulling anything. He waved his hand to stop them from continuing to pull and arranged it directly. It's this guy, he has already arrived at 10 Mile City. 3 days. Within 3 days, I want results. Isn't it just about finding someone? Pack it on me. Xiao Lu takes on everything with confidence on his face. His friends are all over the city, just looking for a strange stranger. It's just a small matter. Li Xing reached into his arms and casually threw a small wallet at Xiao Liuyi. Xiao Liuyi caught it and shook professionally in his ear. I only heard a crisp sound from the collision of silver coins, and Xiao Lu's eyes became even brighter. 3 days, 3 days. Li Xing stood up and emphasized to the thief in front of him again. Don't worry, Star Lord. We guarantee to do it beautifully for you. Li Xing has no doubt about this point. Finding the most suitable person to do the most suitable thing is his strength. If he does such trivial things, he should not be more than 5 fingers more professional than others in 10 Mile City. After all, this is his and their world. Li Xing turned around, but suddenly saw a familiar figure at the tea house on the street corner. He dismounted and slowly walked into the second floor of the tea house. Taking a closer look, the two sitting by the railing were a graceful young master and a graceful lady. Isn't that exactly Yi Yan and Lan Yingying? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Catching Turtles in a Jar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Catching Turtles in a Jar. The weather is clear, the air is fresh, the view is broad, and there is no obstruction. Although the distance is still 100 meters away, Li Xing has great confidence in his gaze. Without a doubt, it must be Yi Yan and Lan Yingying. At this sensitive moment, they surprisingly abandoned the left and right sides and came to this noisy and quiet place for a meeting. For a moment, Li Xing's curiosity surged and he wished to immediately investigate, but if he wanted to get closer and peek, his strength was clearly lacking. But this won't stump him. Li Xing looks left and right. Boss, bring a pot of tea and some melon seeds. I picked a good spot at the nearby tea stall and sat up casually. Come on, guest. That's it. Li Xing sipped on melon seeds while sipping tea, eagerly anticipating the two infatuated men and women upstairs engaging in a fierce fight on the spot. Li Xinglian cooked 3 large bowls of tea and knocked out a whole bag of melon seeds, but he never saw the excitement he hoped for. That's not right. Isn't it true that these two goods are childhood sweethearts and have a mutual affection? Now the woman abandons her old love, starting in chaos and ending in despair, and climbs up a higher branch. The man is powerless to protect, tragically humiliated, and parting in life and death. Is it worth a few tears anyway? What's going on with your generous script as the man and the woman? I saw the two people upstairs slowly standing up, bowing to each other, being polite and not exceeding the standard, with a look of joy between the guests. Li Xing couldn't figure it out. Did young Master Ran deceive me? These two people are not in that relationship. It's completely unnecessary. But it's also impossible to stop Yi Yan from asking again right now. Isn't that causing trouble for people? He was not interested in the trouble of not having money. He watched Yi Yan go downstairs, his attendants lead horses, and after stepping onto a tall horse, they walked towards him. Li Xing quickly turned around and curled up, pretending that he didn't exist. It is obvious that Yi Gongzi's eyes were higher than the top, and he did not fall above the common people on the roadside, completely ignoring Li Xing's past. Taking a slight step slower, Lan Yingying leisurely descended the stairs, and immediately 2 maids greeted him. The 2 sedan bearers also carried warm carved and painted sedan chairs to the tea house. The sedan chair man lifted the veil, and the maid helped Lan Yingying onto the sedan chair. Then the sedan chair man lifted the sedan chair, and the maid accompanied him, which was the standard configuration for ladies from all walks of life. Boss, check out. Objectively, 10 worth of money. 3 bowls of tea and a pack of melon seeds, how dare you ask for 10 Li Xing's originally casual expression immediately turned ferocious, sitting with his body facing the tea house and his head firmly glancing at the owner of the tea stall. 10 The owner of the tea stall smiled and faced Li Xing's questioning. He leisurely pointed to the right side of the stall, where a white cloth hung and wrote, "Our shop has good tea, 3 per bowl, no credit." "You're robbing." Li Xing slammed the table and suddenly stood up. The tea stall owner remained calm and pointed to another sign. "The lord of the city is directly in charge, and the city guard is authorized." Li Xing looked in the direction he pointed, and under the sign, 3 city guards dressed in bright armor to maintain public order seemed to have heard the dispute here, their serious eyes scanning over. Li Xing, who had not seen any good play and suffered another loss, fled in despair and rushed towards the direction of the sedan chair. The sedan chair walked leisurely, as if exploring the beautiful scenery on the street. Li Xing pretended to be a passerby, looked left and then again, always ensuring that the sedan chair did not leave his sight. As he walked, Li Xing noticed that the sedan chair did not seem to be moving in the direction of the Blue Mansion, but rather veered further and further toward some rarely visited alleys in the city. What is the situation? Li Xing was puzzled, but realized that he was currently employed by someone. In order to protect his goals, he quickly took a few steps to reveal his identity, and then persuaded Miss Lawn to go home with kind words. The sedan chair suddenly turned towards a small alley over 1 meter wide by the river, and Li Xing quickly chased after it. Blue. Before Li Xing could even speak, he felt a strong wind blowing from his side. "Damn it, there's an ambush," and this thought flashed through my heart. But Li Xing's movements were not slow. He quickly lowered his waist to an iron bridge and would dodge the attack. Then, Yulongbu spontaneously stood up, touching the ground with his hands and feet, and in a strange posture, he suddenly took 2 steps forward, opening up enough distance. Then he suddenly turned around, only to find that the girl hiding in the corner who was secretly attacking him was actually a girl wearing a dark green jacket skirt. Wearing a hat and veil, holding a 3-foot green blade, as the autumn waves pass by, gracefully dance like a startled swallow stepping on a flying dragon. What is the situation? Li Xing was about to speak up and inquire, but he didn't expect the other party to take the lead in making a sound as clear as a bell. "You're such a pervert, I didn't expect you to have so much courage to be so rude in broad daylight." Upon hearing this, Li Xian was stunned. "Who? A lecherous thief? Me?" I just raised my finger and pointed at myself, trying to defend myself. But seeing the other party grabbing him straight, without giving him any chance, he raised his green sword and stabbed towards Li Xing. "Lust thief, look at the move." The green front emitted waves of cold light, like the swaying green willows on the shore, the sword tip breaking through the wind, like a butterfly and like a cicada, making it difficult to grasp the landing point of the sword tip. The sword light lightly touched the sword energy, and Li Xing felt stabbed all over his body. Playing really? The thought flashed through my mind, and I immediately lowered my luck and stepped against the 8 characters, trying to distance myself. The opponent is as light as a swallow, with sword shadows flickering and sealing in all directions. They have a lot of restraint on their own steps, and in addition, this area is narrow, making it difficult to use all their body methods. Several variations of moves failed to completely escape the blockade of the opponent's swordsmanship, leaving no room for a counterattack. In addition, the system surprisingly did not provide any prompts, so Li Xing understood. This woman's martial arts are far superior to her own. Damn it, no expert has emerged. Reluctantly avoiding the sword move, my mind suddenly turned to think about how to get rid of the predicament below. Fortunately, they are now located in a narrow alleyway, filled with many miscellaneous items from surrounding families. Sorry. Li Xing silently recited the 3-character classic and rudely came up with his generous way of doing things when he was a street thug, opening up a stall. Firewood, dry goods, bamboo poles, garbage, whatever they get, Li Xing casually throws it away. This move is indeed effective. Even the most powerful female swordsman is a woman, and she has some concerns about these dirty and filthy things. This caught Li Xing's breath and he immediately stopped hesitating. With his qi and his elixir, he launched a counterattack. Killing, help. Someone's killing on the street. Turn around and run, shouting loudly while running towards the direction where Lan Yingying's sedan chair is located. At this moment, the two sedan bearers had already put down their sedan chairs. The two sedan bearers pulled out their long knives and stood guard in front of the alley, posing as if they were catching turtles in a jar. There were wolves in front and tigers behind, so Li Xing had to give his life and grit his teeth, his right hand delving deep into his underwear pocket. This action reminds people of Jin Yanzi's hidden weapon. The two sedan bearers were calm and focused, sacrificing themselves to block the position of the sedan bearers, preparing to receive Li Xing's thunderous strike. Li Xing suddenly pulled out his last life-saving talisman. My own people. Miss Lan, spare your life. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Who says women are not as good as men? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Who says women are not as good as men? The mountain walls press against the roof, the heavy doors and deep alleys are winding like a maze, occasionally adorned with green plants. The winding water flows with cups, holding the sun in the shade, creating a scene of a mansion in a deep courtyard. Undoubtedly, it is one of the oldest and most powerful families in this city. This cultural heritage and atmosphere can be seen from the layout of the family. Please take a seat, young master. Our young lady will come as soon as she goes. The maid brought preserved fruits and tea, and led Li Xing to wait for a moment in the small pavilion in the pool. Thank you, Mississippi. Li Xing gazed at the peaceful scenery around him, climbed up with a snake and a stick, and began to converse with the beautiful lady Lan Yingying. It's not surprising to have many people. Li Xing is handsome and has a sweet mouth. After resolving the misunderstanding, he naturally won't be treated differently by the maids. Dare to ask, little sister, is the female warrior who came forward to teach me a lesson today a master from the mansion? That one is Mrs. Best Friend. The maid thought for a moment and seemed to feel that there was nothing to say. A few days ago, I just arrived from the outer city and it is said that I received a letter from Mississippi. I came specifically to accompany Mississippi. The maid didn't think there was any problem, no wonder she looks like she's out of town. She's truly a female hero that leaves a deep impression on people. Li Xing extended his thumb, pondering and immediately praising. Of course, when it comes to charm, it still belongs to a few young ladies. My maidservant is crude, I can't be mistaken for the young master's praise. The sound coming from outside the pavilion is as fragrant as orchids, and the sound is as melodious as chimes. Dressed in a sky-blue veil, with a flowing robe and a light train swaying in the wind, Lan Yingying, accompanied by several maids and her best friend, came to the pavilion to receive guests. I have met Miss Lan, thank you very much for saving her life. The young master has also shown kindness to me, but it's just a matter of courtesy. This sentence has thorns. Li Xing awkwardly lifted his head, only to see that Blue Yingying's gaze was quiet and colorless. Today, Yi Yan approached me and said that he has been deeply taught by the young master. He will soon depart for Shangrao and study the art and dharma of the upper sect. Therefore, I bid farewell. I will entrust my elders to return the wedding stickers as a token of my marriage. I hope to meet you in the martial arts world in the future, leaving only friendship. Li Xing didn't know what to say. Although what Lan Yingying said was good news for himself and the people who hired him, he, as the initiator, was undoubtedly sitting like a needle felt at the moment. He had to pick up steaming hot tea and drink it in one gulp to conceal his anxiety. Although Yi Yan is the eldest son of the Yi family, his legitimate mother passed away early and was not favored by his elders. He has always been confused about his future. With the guidance of the young master, he has abandoned the past and moved towards the higher sect. His talent will surely have a place to be used. If he were to ascend to heaven in the future, his life would not be in vain, without the young master's guidance. I would like to thank you first. It's easy to say. The corners of his mouth were scorched with hot water, and he dared not show it on the surface. However, in the face of Lan Yingying's insincere words, he could only maintain an awkward smile. As for the affairs of the Zheng family, I am a weak woman. I dare not disobey the orders of my parents' matchmakers. Zheng Jia, Li Xing heard about his employer's identity for the first time. As a pawn of the Zheng family's horse, the young master should understand this meaning. I know you're not willing, but I can hear and see. But what's the use of telling me these things? I'm just a money collector doing things. Li Xing shouted in the depths of his heart. It is said that the young master is a disciple of the upper sect. I greatly admire the grace of the disciples of the upper sect and would like to ask for your advice. As she spoke, Lan Yingying stood up and took her sword from her maid's hand. She said she wanted to ask for advice, but her desire to find a punching bag had already jumped onto the paper. I didn't hear that Miss Lan is also good at martial arts. Looking at the maids and servants around, as well as the young lady's best friend who was eagerly observing, Li Xing knew he couldn't avoid it. Ding! Task delivered, point to the point, defeat Lan Yingying and make him admit defeat himself. The comprehensive combat power comparison between enemy and enemy, Lan Yingying, sealed, 40% to 60%. What's in the seal? Li Xing has an ominous premonition. Young master, please. Li Xing reluctantly arrived at the neighboring courtyard with Lan Yingying, a spacious training ground. Lan Yingying took off her outer skirt and revealed a strong outfit, clearly prepared. What weapons is the young master good at using? Knives and spears have no eyes, good at using 2 fists. No longer forced, Lan Yingying bowed with both hands and pulled out the qing foam. Li Xing dispelled distractions and focused his energy on the competition in front of him. Although it may be a competition, for the young masters and ladies of these wealthy families, if you accidentally kill someone like yourself, it's not a big deal. My swordsmanship is called watching the moon, young master, be careful. As soon as Li Xing finished speaking, he could only feel a clear moon hanging high, with a sword light as cold as moonlight, flickering before his eyes, making him involuntarily blink. Opening his eyes again, the sword light had already spread, and he felt a sense of disgust in his shoulders, arms, and lower abdomen. The Mingjing skill rotates, with true qi flowing throughout the body, pushing the wind at the feet of the Yulong step, alternating the 3 talents, and avoiding the sword's edge. For symbols cycle, flash to the weak side of Blue Yingying, and turn from defense to attack. Li Xing's martial arts are not very well known. He didn't put in much effort to learn martial arts. If he had to say it, it was just a right straight fist mixed with true qi. Of course, it won't have any effect either. Lan Yingying's body floated away like a weak wind supporting the willow, and then the sword swept across, like half-moon flowing, pointing straight at her neck. Li Xing did not retreat but instead advanced, taking a big stride and charging into the difficult inner circle of Lan Yingying's sword edge, turning his fist into a palm and patting Lan Yingying's shoulder. Li Xing's body movements and judgment of form were obviously somewhat unexpected to Lan Yingying, which was also the reason for her lack of combat experience, resulting in such a huge flaw in her defense. This palm was ultimately not taken, but stopped in front of Lan Yingying, even politely not touching her body. Miss Lan, you lost. I originally thought that my actions could make the other person understand difficulties and retreat, but I didn't expect that my emotionless words, actions, words, or expressions would trigger the other person's anger. Why didn't we fight down? Do you think I'm a woman? It seemed like anger was rising suddenly, and Lan Yingying was unharmed, but her face had already turned red. Lan Yingying felt humiliated and actively let go of her self-limitations, greatly enhancing her combat power. The comprehensive combat power comparison between the enemy and us, Blue Yingying 55%. 45%. Damn it, shame, what shame? Do you call gentlemanly demeanor humiliation? You mess with me in the system. Li Xing wants to cry without tears. Sword light rises again, this time approaching a level that makes Li Xing completely unable to react. The sword light flickered in the eyes, and the sword style floated unsteadily. It was as dignified as a bright moon in the sky, and the moonlight was cold and penetrating through the heart and spleen. Li Xing no longer left his hands, fully unleashed his strength, and went all out with the dragon walking step. The true Qi transformed into a double dragon with its feet attached, and the speed and flexibility of the step instantly took 2 steps up. If you can't see clearly, don't look. Instead, close your eyes and rely solely on the Mingjing skill to dodge threats. Without the process of seeing and reacting again, Li Xing's evasive movements accelerated a bit, retreating 2, 1 to the right, 3 to the left, advancing 1, and retreating 3. This was just enough to avoid Blue Yingying's sword move, but the clothes were still cut by the sharp blade, and the skin had already felt the slight coolness of the blade. See blood. Hey. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Strange. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Strange. My heart is like the moon in a well, and my body is like a flower in a mirror. Li Xing forced himself to calm down and quietly abandon all distractions, reflecting all the sword moves of Lan Yingying in his heart. Mingjing Gong did not have a significant increase in speed and strength during the forging period, but it possessed the characteristic of predictive ability, which was fully demonstrated by him. After tossing and turning, he dodged all the sharp sword moves of Lan Yingying, causing her to return without success. In a moment of restlessness, even her moves had a slight transformation. Do you only know how to hide? The disciples of the upper sect only have this ability. Lan Yingying saw that she had exhausted all her moves, but still couldn't harm Li Xing at all. He was like a slippery loach, completely helpless. Shameful. It doesn't exist, let's talk about it if we can survive. Li Xing took a few steps back, avoiding the range of Lan Yingying's attack. At this moment, he had thoroughly grasped the opponent's reality and emptiness. That's right, the opponent is several times stronger than themselves in terms of their depth of skill, agility in speed, and proficiency in moves. And her moves themselves clearly possess the demeanor of a famous master, not an unremarkable move, which is very tricky. But she also has 2 obvious shortcomings. Firstly, her physical fitness is not up to par, and her strength is limited, at least far from enough compared to herself. The 2 have poor experience, clearly not experiencing any battles, their moves are too precise, and it is difficult to balance attack and defense, and their movements are full of loopholes. These are all my own opportunities. Li Xing has already glimpsed the winning opportunity. But Li Xing didn't want to make things look too ugly, so he took a few steps back. He leisurely clasped his fists and saluted, "Miss Lan is amazing. I'm willing to bow down, why don't we just give up? How about that? Don't think I'm a woman, just keep your hands on me like this. Show me your true ability to defeat Yi Yen. As a disciple of the upper sect, it shouldn't be just your level. Do you have any misunderstandings about the disciples of the previous sect?" Li Xing's face was full of helplessness, but he had not even been able to officially start this matter, and he dared not speak directly to others. He still wants to continue wearing this layer of tiger skin. That would be a great offense. Li Xing saw that his verbal persuasion was ineffective, and it seemed that he had to completely defeat him in order to end this meaningless entanglement in his eyes. So Li Xing spread out his hands, stood with his feet staggered, his heels slightly standing on the ground, and his soles pedaling to stop. True energy emanated from his feet, transitioning to his full body gravity in landing on one side. His left foot was slightly outward swinging, with the focus on the back of his foot. His body moved in the opposite direction, alternating between his feet. With unity of heart and strength, they attacked towards the location of Lan Yingying at a speed beyond everyone's imagination. Lan Yingying was not foolish either. She gasped for breath and had fully recovered some of her strength during this period. She also understood her weaknesses, and immature moves were difficult to inflict effective damage on Li Xing. But she still thinks she has a chance to win. The family tradition of the moon-watching sword technique is the secret sword technique known as the Moon Shadow 3 Points. This is a secret sword that she has not yet fully mastered, but suddenly using it at this moment can definitely defeat anyone who has not seen the secret sword. Just now she also judged Li Xing's level, good, but that's all. It's definitely not a level that can avoid her own killing moves. At first sight, it is like the moon, with its shadow divided into 3 parts. In Li Xing's eyes, the sword in Lan Yingying's hand seemed to have transformed into 3 substantial ones, blocking all possibilities of moving forward or backward from 3 different directions. I can't avoid it, there's no way to avoid it. In an instant, Li Xing made a judgment. Only the brave win when meeting on narrow paths, and Li Xing's energy sinks into the elixir field. The true qi suddenly exploded, accelerating the body that was originally moving at full speed and forcefully squeezing into the tiny gap of the sword move. He exchanged 3 deep bloodstains on his body for his own fist and mercilessly punched Lan Yingying's left shoulder. With a coquettish cry, Lan Yingying was severely injured and could no longer hold the green blade in her hand. Her body was like a fallen autumn leaf, swaying away with the wind. Be careful. Her best friend was the one who reacted the fastest, and after a few jumps, she stopped Lan Yingying from falling to the ground. He grabbed her body and, in the position of a princess holding her, spun several times in the air before leisurely landing on the ground. Within a square inch of his strength, this lightness skill is definitely beyond Li Xing's reach in a short period of time. Mississippi. Lan Yingying's maids rushed up one after another to see what kind of injury their young lady had suffered. Li Xing kept spraying blood from 3 wounds all over his body, and soon almost soaked his coat. Ding, the task is completed. Defeated the full power state of Lan Yingying, with a task completion rate of 70% and a subsequent impact rate of 60%. The overall evaluation is B, but did not receive the opportunity to actively select rewards. The system will automatically select rewards, and you can choose 2 items from the following list as rewards. Ding, congratulations on obtaining the following list. Qingfeng Drunk X1, UNV Sect Secret Medicine X1, Chanting Farewell Song Score Fragments X1 inch, please make a choice. Li Xing glanced roughly at 3 items in the Spring Breeze Tower. The spring breeze is drunk. If the spring breeze is not drunk, the groom will not return. A pot of refreshing and intoxicating wine can be used to increase the favorability of characters who match their own personality. Drinking with others can increase liking by 10 to 50 points special effect. Drinking with Yi Yen can add an additional effect of 1 smile to dispel enmity. Can establish a good relationship with Yi Yanqing and form an 8-legged friendship even if you ignore the special effect that makes you feel uncomfortable. This wine is still a good thing. Then his gaze quickly flashed through the second item. The secret medicine of the Yu Women's Sect is a mysterious ointment from the Yu Women's Sect, with unknown effects. Intuition told Li Xing that the ointment in front of him, emitting a dark and eerie aura, was not a simple thing, but without any special markings, Li Xing couldn't figure it out. Fragments of the score 4, Farewell. Sparkling with a faint golden light, the appearance is truly amazing. He has never seen this kind of thing before, and it is obvious that it has a significant level gap compared to other items. On its annotation, it simply states that Farewell is one of the famous Guzheng pieces. After collecting all the fragments, a reward mission, January 6th, will be activated. Li Xing was entangled in the reward and his eyes were full of distress. I'm fine. Lan Yingying has already stood up. After all, she is a child of the martial arts world, not the kind of delicate and charming person. At this moment, I was just covering my right shoulder, looking like I had been greatly injured. But her expression did not show any pain, but rather a hint of ecstasy and fanaticism. This expression made Li Xing's scalp tingle, and he vaguely felt something causal entangled around him. "Please bandage Mr. Li and get the best wound medicine." But Lan Yingying didn't say anything further, just instructed the maid beside her, and then turned to Li Xing. "Please rest for a while, young master. I am impolite." Watching the maid bring her ointment and tools, she was finally allowed to be helped up by the maid and servants, who then helped her into the backyard. Only her best friend, with her hands on her back, came bouncing up to Li Xing's side and looked up at him, who was letting the maid bandage the wound, before saying, "This girl's eyes are unforgettable." To Li Xing, he has never seen such beautiful eyes before. But at this moment, after taking off the veil, coupled with the delicate face of a small family jade, it actually made the divine energy in the eyes introverted, unable to show any amazement. "Disciple of the upper sect. Why haven't I seen your martial arts skills before?" The attitude of discussing friendship among peers immediately alerted Li Xing's heart. People in the martial arts world who have met before, knowing their tiger skin, tend to show a hint of caution to some extent. However, the person in front of them thinking of her martial arts moves, Li Xing was taken aback and realized that she was also a disciple of the upper sect. Thinking of this, Li Xing quickly stood up and saluted, ignoring his still wrapped body. "I am a disciple of the Ming Mirror sect." Li Xing has seen a female hero face to face. Mingjing sect. The woman's eyes rolled and a hint of smell came out, revealing a mischievous smile as she suddenly realized. "Ah, Mingjing sect, I remember. No wonder." As he spoke, he raised his hand to conceal his smile. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Righteousness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Righteousness. Wow wow, under the moon, the crows crow, the night wind shakes the trees, the deserted mountains and temples, empty and desolate. But this was Li Xing's resting place. Unable to afford the rent in the city, he passed by a dilapidated temple to shelter from the rain during a mission and was attracted to it at that time. After several inquiries, it was found that no one claimed it, so he simply occupied this dilapidated temple as his resting place. Li Xing stumbled and pushed open the gate of the dilapidated temple. Starlight shone straight down through the damaged roof, illuminating the temple, which worships an unknown deity or Buddha. At this moment, the temple has been destroyed, the gods and Buddhas have fallen, leaving only half of the adobe unable to distinguish their true selves. Therefore, there are few people and broken bricks and tiles, which do not cover the rainy season. Li Xing bid farewell to Lan Yingying's heartfelt invitation with great difficulty, carrying the ointment she had gifted and a top-grade green robe. Dragging her tired and scarred body, she left the blue family courtyard and, with the help of the gatekeeper, left the city. Slowly, she walked a few kilometers and arrived at the desolate forest by the edge of the city. Although the small temple is dilapidated, it has a rare sense of tranquility. To exaggerate, there is a sense of home here. Li Xing cautiously looked around the dilapidated temple, then at the incense ash she had sprinkled in front of the temple gate, ensuring that no one had come here during his departure before leisurely entering the gate. In one corner of the temple, there was a simple bed and a few pieces of furniture, but Li Xing looked down on that side. Slowly, I arrived behind the broken statue, where an inconspicuous small door was hidden. Squatting down and opening the door, Li Xing struggled to crawl in and slowly climbed into his true lair, following a passage that only allowed people to squat. This is a basement, a haven that Li Xing has spent a lot of time and effort building for himself. Except for him, almost no one can find this place, and it also houses all his belongings. After a simple sorting of the items he brought back, Li Xing took off the clothes that were already soaked in his own blood. Then I briefly examined my wound. Although I didn't understand medicine, I only looked at my appearance. The dressing was very good and professional. At this moment, he felt empty in his stomach, so he skillfully took out the stored supplies that had been hidden aside, took out a dry cake, and wolfed it down with cold water, filling his stomach with grass and grass. Then, fatigue surged in his heart, and his head tilted and he fell into a deep sleep. This sleep was unprecedentedly peaceful. When Li Xing woke up again, the sun was already rising and his wounds were slightly itchy, as if he was growing flesh. Miss Lan is quite generous, this is indeed the best innovative medicine. The hunger emanating from his stomach was indeed unbearable, so Li Xing picked up another dry cake and crawled out of his secret room while chewing. Arriving at the dilapidated temple, he simply arranged the beds, tables, and chairs used for cover, putting on a living appearance, and then went out to the nearby stream. The small stream that ultimately converges into the big river is also the main reason why he chose to customize this place as his own occupation point. After a simple grooming, Li Xing keenly heard cries coming from afar. "Star Lord, Star Lord! It's Xiao Lu. Isn't it, there's news so soon?" Li Xing was stunned. He only arranged things yesterday and received a reply so quickly. Is this guy so reliable now? Li Xing tidied up his clothes and calmly walked back to the dilapidated temple. "I'm here." Xiao Lu was not angry about his waiting, but raised his hands with a smile. "Master Xing, do you see what good things I have brought you?" I saw Xiao Lu holding 2 oiled paper bags in his left and right hands, and just by smelling the aroma, he knew it was top-quality braised chicken and vegetables. At this moment, the greedy insect in Li Xing's belly happened to emit a chirp, just in time. A smile climbed onto Li Xing's face, pushed open the door, and led Xiao Lu into the dilapidated temple. He casually wiped the tables and chairs, asking Xiao Lu to sit down. Xiao Lu smiled and opened the oil paper bag he carried with him. A few pairs of pork head, half a roasted chicken, and some peanuts and fruits were placed in front of Li Xing, with a slight heat and a very tempting aroma. "You're getting rich, how could you put out such a bunch of things? Look at what you're saying." "Star Lord, I didn't hear that you were injured, so I'm thinking of making up for it for you." "Is the news spreading so fast?" Li Xing asked himself about his whereabouts yesterday, but it didn't seem too deliberate. How could it be that in such a short period of time, it had already been transmitted to the ears of these petty thieves? "Who told you I was injured?" Li Xing frowned and instinctively asked. "Who else can there be?" "City guards." Xiao Lu replied indifferently. Clearly, city guard was also one of his sources of information. Li Xing thought for a moment, shrugged his shoulders, let go of his distractions, grabbed half of the chicken leg with his bare hands and forcefully stuffed it into his mouth, tearing it apart and swallowing it in 3 or 2 bites. "Tell me, is there any news?" "Hee, Star Lord, you don't know how hard we've been searching these past few days." "Wait, 2 days. Li Xian was stunned and said, "You said 2 days. Li Xing repeated it again. "Yeah, you came to me 2 days ago. Isn't it? I actually slept directly for 2 days. Li Xing finally understood the reason why he was so hungry. "It seems that I underestimated the impact of excessive blood loss on myself." Li Xing secretly warned himself from the bottom of his heart that he could never be so careless again. Don't forget the teacher of the past and be cautious when going out. "So what did you hear about it?" Xiao Lu scratched his head with embarrassment and said truthfully. "Actually, it's not much. After you instructed us, we mobilized our brothers to inquire and found out that there have been quite a few new faces in the city recently. Many of them look full of bloody smell. But the golden swallow you are looking for, we have only listed a few suspected targets, but have not identified them, so we are reporting to you now, isn't it? Having a goal is great, it's better than being a headless fly. Well done." Li Xing affectionately patted Xiao Lu's shoulder. "This small matter cannot disappoint you, Star Lord, but..." Xiao Lu hesitated and said, "We also heard something, it seems to be about the city lord and the Blue family. Does this matter still have the lord's share?" Upon hearing this, Li Xing was slightly surprised, but he still patted his chest, touching the wound. A painful expression couldn't help but appear on the corner of his mouth, and then he said to Xiao Lu with a big grin. "Check it out, there may be some unexpected gains." As he spoke, Li Xing suddenly paused and pretended to turn around, taking out a jar containing 2 pounds of wine from under his bed and placing it on the table. "There is delicious food, how can there be no wine to accompany it?" As he spoke, he opened the seal on the wine jar with a palm, and the pungent aroma instantly filled their nostrils. "Wow, the spring breeze is intoxicating." Xiao Lu is obviously not without knowledge, he only understood the origin of this wine at a glance. There is meat and wine, it should bring joy and enmity." Li Xing slammed the wine jar onto the table. "Drink." Xiao Lu was also polite and couldn't wait to lift the wine jar, almost reaching his mouth. However, after some thought, his movement still stopped, he put down the wine jar and said to Li Xing with a smirk. "Master Xing, why don't we have 2 bowls instead? I still want to savor this wine carefully." "Stupid guy." Li Xing sneered, knowing that the young man in front of him thought the wine was just expensive, but he still took out 2 wine bowls from a corner, pretended to wipe them, blew a breath, as if he had already blown away all the dust on them. "Fill 2 bowls and say, let's go." Li Xing and Xiao Lu bumped into bowls and then drank the wine in one gulp. Cough cough, what a fragrant wine, what a spicy wine. Li Xing's heroic martial arts spirit satisfied the young man's longing for the martial arts world, and at this moment, a hint of pride couldn't help but rise in Xiao Lu's heart. The 2 of them shared their drinks and meat, and soon, drunkenness surged into Xiao Lu's heart. He kept patting his big chest and said to Li Xing. "Master Xing, don't worry, we rely on loyalty when wandering the world. No matter what you want to do, with our friendship, I will definitely help you. Righteousness. Righteousness. When wandering the world, righteousness comes first with the word righteousness. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Clubs and Traces. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Clubs and Traces. This is a swordsman from the northwest border city. Li Xing and Xiao Lu sat in the lobby of the inn, facing each other, drinking their juices like normal diners without showing any unusual behavior. And his gaze silently glanced at the guest sitting alone at another table. Li Xing picked up a handful of melon seeds and stuffed them into his mouth one by one. "Shopkeeper, check out." Putting down the money and pulling Xiao Lu out of the inn, he slowly shook his head. A sand-proof cloak and a sun-proof hat don't really mean anything. But his knife is well maintained. And the marks of wind and sand on his hands. In Xiao Lu's disappointed gaze, Li Xing shook his head firmly. "Next. Star Lord, this is already the 18th one," said Xiao Lu with a frown on his face. "Why, there's no doubt about the target anymore." "This is not." Xiao Lu quickly shook his head and explained. "I just feel like this one by one search is too inefficient. Originally a mysterious guy who is good at disguising, do you still expect to be caught by you in such a short while? Which one of you?" Li Xing didn't even feel impatient, but the kid in front of him felt bored and couldn't help but sigh, he was just too restless. "I. Star Lord, 6th brother." Someone rushed over at a jog, their voice coming from far to near, with a hint of panting. The 2 of them turned around and saw a little brother from Xiao Lu rushing towards them, with joy on his face. "Master Xing, Brother Lu, there's some activity in the courtyard next to the big willow tree in Yanglu Lane." Li Xing's puzzled gaze swept over, and Xiao Lu quickly explained. "It's the one we've screened before, very suspicious. But he hasn't been out yet, so we want to further confirm before letting you go." "Suspicious? How suspicious is it?" Li Xing became excited, and what he was most afraid of now was suspicion. He arrived in Shirley City about 10 days ago and immediately moved into that courtyard, living in seclusion all day long. What's suspicious about this? Master Xing, you don't know. The messenger rushed to answer Li Xing's doubts and said, "We were originally planning to take action against him." Xiao Liuyi pressed down on his younger brother's face, pressed him hard, and took over the conversation. A delicate and tender old man, full of the fragrance of women's rouge, is a foreign face, and he lives in a simple and mysterious way. "Let's go, take me to take a look." Li Xing also became interested. For a flower picker, the above adjectives seem to be just right. Yanglu Lane can be considered as a high-end residential area in the 10-mile city, where the bourgeoisie resides, and courtyards with 2 or 3 entrances are everywhere. The target residence is located at the entrance of Yanglu Lane. The willow tree, which is said to have 100 years of history and is still growing vigorously, is the origin of the name of this alley. Because the people living here are all wealthy and generous, and there are also many philanthropic people, it has attracted many homeless and poor people to wander here. Gathering, eager for the charity of kind-hearted people, casually grabbing a handful of dust and wiping his face, Xiao Lu's informant infiltrated without any sudden change. Xiao Liuyi kicked away the 2 beggars in front of him. Although he didn't exert any force, his thin body was completely unable to resist, and he was kicked away a few steps in a row. At the same time, he stopped the other beggars from attempting to beg with fierce eyes. The beggars dared not be angry or speak, and had to curl up their bodies desperately in order to avoid more harm. Xiao Lu completely ignored them and took a few steps to approach his younger brother. "What is the situation? I went out for a walk 2 hours ago and now I have returned to the hospital. Did you keep up?" 3 people changed, take turns following. Xiao Lu's younger brother appeared very proud, noticeably listening to many anecdotes about the martial arts world told by Mr. T. House, and thinking that he had already learned something. He went to the rouge shop, cloth shop, and grocery store, and bought a lot of rouge, water powder, and silk brocade. "Okay." Upon hearing his younger brother's whispered description, Xiao Lu couldn't help but get excited. He didn't run away, it was this guy. "Well, keep an eye on him first. I'll find a way to test and test again." After listening to Xiao Lu's narration, Li Xing also secretly rejoiced in his heart and caught him. "It's truly me. Remember, be careful. This guy has a bounty of tens of thousands of taels. It's not the street thugs you've encountered before. Master Xing, don't worry." Bang bang. Xiao Lu's chest turned purple. After calming several little brothers, Li Xing walked on the street, basking in the warm sunshine, but his mind was filled with thoughts. If you just want to complete the task, the simplest way is to report it directly to Manager Zhou, and then take the money and leave. Whether he is preparing to fish or directly taking action to extinguish the danger in the bud, it is not his own business. Next is to go to the bounty and find a few people who are not afraid of death, without saying what they want to do. They just ride the black light and grope inside, tie them up and leave. If it's a big deal, kill him. This way, you can both receive a reward and complete the arrangement of Butler Zhou. It's also a good idea. And there is also a way, which is to only observe, not take action, keep an eye on this guy, and then quietly follow him when he takes action. Hero saves beauty, he 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 he. As soon as I thought of Lan Yingying, my wound began to ache faintly again. Even half of the indigenous people like myself didn't know Lan Yingying had such skills before. Is this foreign flower picker's move very reasonable? In addition, the route of the deep courtyard and the guards of the Blue family, it seems very tricky. Li Xing is quite moved. No, do I underestimate Golden Swallow a bit? He has been running through more than 10 cities for several years, committing dozens of crimes, and offering a reward of over 10,000 taels as a lewd thief. Moreover, he has been chased by various big families for so long without being caught. Can you easily reveal a flaw that can even be seen halfway through? Thinking of this, Li Xing stopped in his tracks. No way. You must be cautious. Having made up his mind, Li Xing turned around and walked towards the bounty again. With something in mind, Li Xing didn't be too arrogant this time. Instead, he quietly pushed open the door, flashed into the bounty center, and walked straight towards the counter. "Boss, I'm buying intelligence." "Li Gongzi." The expected shopkeeper did not give himself an answer, instead the original waiter stood in the position where the shopkeeper was. "Did you usurp the throne?" Subconsciously, Li Xing threw out this sentence. "Look at what you're saying." The waiter wore a bitter smile on his face. "The shopkeeper has already set off to the headquarters to report on his work, so I will temporarily take a few days." "Oh," Li Xing squinted his eyes, as if he had thought of something. "That chubby guy didn't deduct my money and want to escape, did he?" "Not so much, not so much," the waiter quickly said. "The shopkeeper has instructed me to give this to you if you come." As he spoke, he handed over a cold iron plaque with the two big characters Ijiu written on it, followed by some strange patterns. "Take this item and go to the main store to redeem the item promised by the shopkeeper." Li Xing, with a skeptical attitude, flipped through the things on his hand, carefully examined them but couldn't see any tricks. He looked disdainfully at them, but carefully hid the iron plaque in his underwear pocket. His scrutinizing gaze immediately turned to the waiter. "Okay, for now. I want to buy some intelligence. Please." As soon as the waiter heard that there was a business coming, his expression immediately became excited. He skillfully bowed and led Li Xing towards the inner room. The mirror work has no roots and naturally induces. Someone is staring at me. End of this chapter.